What's up, IFBB, AMA fans and followers? My name is Xavier Wills, and I am joined, as always, by Lee Priest, Australian bodybuilding legend, for another episode of Bodybuilding and Banter. We're back, Lee. We have a good connection. Starlink has come through, and we're
Thank you, Elon Musk.
yeah, Elon to save the day, basically. So, Lee, we have plenty of bodybuilding topics to discuss, and we recently just had Dan Solomon. I believe he did an interview with that BTS behind the
Oh, yeah.
stage, behind the scenes,
Yep.
and
Yep.
he had something to say, and that sort of grabbed my attention when it said why the initial thing on the screen says why the Olympia won't use a black backdrop curtain. I'm going to open that up in just a moment, and I know you're opposed to this. So first, before we get into it, give us a little bit of your opinion on, I suppose, do you think they should use a black curtain at the Olympia, or do you think they should just do
During
something different?
during judging, yes, because we've seen it without the curtain. The bodybuilders just blend into the background, especially if it's all the lights and stuff. And look, yes, I know you got sponsors paying big money at the Olympia and stuff like that to have their names on stage, but you got a whole stage. The whole backdrop is like this lit up screen. But what gets me is though, during pre-judging, you can like when they're all standing there, have them everywhere. But for the minute or two when they say whoever, Sampson, Hardy, Derek, Nick Walker did the middle part, that's like what, probably a meter for each person. So say 5 meters across behind them, black it out, still have the sponsors going up the side across the top, but where they are, you just have the blackness behind them. Once they're finished posing, put the sponsors everywhere till they pick four more out. And that nighttime show when they're just doing routines, go crazy with the lights, the sponsors. But just for that pre-judging part, you can't tell me you can't black it out behind them, just like even matte, because you got different lights on there. You can make it go matte or a darker color because, like, just it's quite easy to do. We've seen how good it looks at the Ironman. Fuad showed how good it looks at the Detroit Pro, and he still had the sponsors around. You can have like pillars on the stage that are all lit up with the sponsors on. Like at the Olympia columns and that. You could,
Yeah.
if their columns are white, like Olympia columns are white, they can have projectors project the sponsors onto that as well as the LED screens in the back. So for him to say it can't be done is bullshit. And then something else he said too about, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not going to quote him, but it was something about if it takes something about having bigger lights or lasers and that's going to take away a bit from the athletes, so be it. So I'm like, you call this the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. It's meant to be the one premier show, even though I think the Arnold's better. The Olympia's meant to be the number one show in Vegas. Any other stage production in Vegas can do it. It's like, and you can't tell me, you say, so be it. They have to sacrifice a little bit. Really? Dan, without the athletes, you don't have a fucking show. If these guys banded together and said, listen, Dan, if we don't get the black backdrop and we don't get the proper lighting and shit, you've been training your whole life to get to the Olympia stage. That's where on the day of the Olympia, you want to be judged fairly. And to be judged fairly, you need the proper lighting because we've all seen how the wrong lighting and this and that can make someone look smooth, wash them out. So get the people who did the Ironman, just get some ideas going and have the athletes look their best because they're the ones up on stage bringing the people to your show. And if they don't look their best and you're making them look bad and they know you don't really care how they look because you're more worried about the sponsors and the whole production value, I think the athletes should just say, fuck you and not do the show. Like I said, without them, you're not going to make any money, Dan. So
That's a very good
the
point.
show's not about you, Dan. I remember when you were with bodybuilding.com or back then, you're nobody. You still seem like a retarded nobody, but everyone will kiss your ass because he runs the Olympia. Fuck off, Dan.
I wonder how
I'm a
much is
bodybuilder trying to control the bodybuilders. Where have we seen that before? I couldn't be one, but now I can sort of be in charge of them like a schmo.
well, I suppose the thing that's like troubling to me is that I feel like Dan's always actually been really good with that sort of stuff. And I thought, with Dan in charge, and don't get me wrong, the Olympia went up in leaps and bounds last year. Like it was
Yeah.
dramatically better, I think, than the year prior. Like it definitely improved. But I still think there's things where I think the fans see the Olympia as being slightly tone deaf in terms of some of
Mhm.
these things. And
It's always been that way. That's why I used to get in trouble with Robin Chang and that when I'd say in articles, the Arnold was run better. They treat the athletes better. They actually treat you like a professional athlete. Everything's run much better. And I even said Tony Doty's show in Australia was better run than the Olympia, the way he took care of the athletes and that. And most athletes I spoke to agreed that when they came to Australia, Tony picked them up at the airport, took them to the thing, had their meals cooked. Anything you wanted, Tony had his people do for you and help you out while you eat. Actually got treated like you're someone special, like a pro athlete, not just like, you see it in boxing and that, the people that promote shows, they don't really give a shit. It's like, go do your job and they make the money type thing. That's where I don't get it when the athletes are the ones with the power. Without the athlete, you don't have a show, mate. So how about you just be a bit forgiving and just listen to them a bit, take in ideas. Don't be like, no, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. Because like I said, the black backdrop, when they call four people out to do their comparisons, it ain't hard to make it go black for that amount of time. And like I said, the stage is how big. You say how big the Olympia stage was last year. So you got the whole stage. You can still have the sponsors all here and across here, but just that 5, 6 meters, leave it black for that 2 minutes. And then when they're back in line and the judges are trying to pick out next, flood it with sponsors. And then when they come back out, and then like I said, nighttime show, and that doesn't matter because they're pretty much being judged. But then nighttime, when they're going to rejudge the top six, just make it black for those couple of minutes. It's not fucking hard. It's like,
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Can you hear this when I play this? I don't think you'll be able to because it says for me to share a tab, and for whatever reason, Instagram isn't opening on the tabs. But can you hear this? No? Okay. Well, unfortunately,
can
yeah,
you can
he
you hear
goes over.
this?
No, I can't.
Remember used to do that when you're little.
As well, before we forget what I was actually
Hey,
going on
kitty.
to.
Yeah. You're on the cam, kitty.
Brian then posted up this, and it's a screen capture from the Arnold Classic pay-per-view, well, which wasn't a pay-per-view, it was a free live stream, which shout out to the Arnold for that. And then the Olympia one where you've got one of the lights across Hardy's face and the bunch of smoke and stuff like that, where I've got to say the Olympia stream was overall, I'd say pretty decent, but at stages it was a little but they do put a lot of production into it. And I know the Arnold obviously burned some money on that, but people love it. And that brings so many fans to love the Arnold Classic. So the fans are definitely on the side of the Arnold sports. I'd say a lot because of the stream, but also because we can see the competitors more clearly. And the Arnold don't use a black backdrop, but it's definitely on average less distracting.
Yeah. Well, they all should just use it black because you want, like I said, you want these guys who have been training their ass off and women and that for a year for a big show like that to be their best. And they can only do so much. If they do their dieting and cardio and training and whatever, they've done it 100%. I don't think it's right that somebody who's in charge of production can fuck up how they look just because they don't really give a shit.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And with the Sphere, I think that seats a lot of people back to
Oh
that
yeah, it's
because
massive.
if it seats, let me look it up. So I'll go Las Vegas Sphere capacity. Um,
Like 1,000 or more, a couple of thousand, wouldn't it?
Seated capacity of 17.6, so 17,600 and can hold up to 20,000 people with standing room. So I think they would sell it out. Like I think 2 nights in a row they would sell it out because I know with the last Olympia, it was hard to get tickets to. It was near impossible, and I think they'd only sat about 4 or
Planned a year in
5,000.
advance too. They said like, okay, the Arnold's going to be at Columbus, like say next year, but then the following year we're going to the Sphere, so people know that want to go. Save up your money. This is going to be a hell of a production. It's going to be unlike nothing you've seen before. They've been the first time there. I think they would sell out.
If I was running the Olympia or whatever, I would ask Fuad, I would ask a bunch of the guys from that podcast, I'd ask Dave Palumbo, I would ask all these people. You don't have to take their ideas on board, but if you take in a whole ton of ideas, like you said, from all these people, have a meeting, like have every YouTube channel in every decent YouTube channel in there.
Well, they make money. They're there to make money. The main people they should listen to are the fans. And when
Mm.
90% of the fans are saying the same things as Fuad and everybody else, maybe should start listening to the fans because they're the ones buying the tickets, coming to see the show, and they want to see a good show, and they want to see the athletes under the best lighting. They want to see their athletes, the people they look up to, or the ones they inspire to be. You want to see them looking at their best. You don't want to see him
Yep.
come out on stage and you go, "Oh fuck, the light makes him look shit." But I saw him at the meet and greet. He looked fantastic. What's happened up there? So you just don't want them. It'd be like fucking having a movie or a stripper or someone come out on stage, but they don't have their makeup and hair done. No, don't worry about it. We're just gonna, whatever. Tell the bikini girls, listen, we're judging you on your body, not your hair, not your makeup, not your nails. So Don't worry about any makeup. Don't worry about any hair. Just get out of bed, put your bikini on, and come to the show.
Yeah, sure. It's
Exactly.
yeah.